Now, Hezbollah says it's fired 150 rockets into northern Israel and the occupied Golan Heights. Air defense systems in Israel have intercepted some of them. Now, Hezbollah says these attacks are in response to the killing of one of its senior commanders. It comes a day after Hezbollah fired more than 200 rockets. Well, let's go to Zeina Khodr. She's live for us in Beirut, the Lebanese capital. Zeina, this was initially framed as retaliation, right? But Hezbollah is still firing a lot of rockets and some drones, I understand, too.
Well, no doubt. In fact, the Israeli media is calling what happened today intense attacks and an unprecedented and complex operation. Hezbollah claiming responsibility, saying that this is, partly in response to the killing of one of its senior commanders on Tuesday night. In its statement, it also says that these attacks are in support of the people of Gaza. Hezbollah targeted 9 military locations in northern Israel almost simultaneously, and some of the locations were hit twice. They used rockets as well as armed drones. The Israeli media is also questioning how some of those rockets and armed drones were not intercepted by Israel's air defense capabilities. So no doubt this is a dangerous escalation. Hezbollah yesterday promised to increase the tempo, the intensity, the force, and the quantity of its attacks as a response to the targeted assassination of one of their commanders on Tuesday night. Now, the question is, how is Israel going to respond? But in the bigger picture of things, yes, this is no doubt an escalation, but the escalation has begun even before the killing of the commander, because Hezbollah was, sending messages to the Israelis.
Stay with me, Zeina, because we've now heard from the United States and Iraq about these strikes. Let's listen to what they said.
If southern Lebanon is attacked, this will impact the whole region. Expanding the war poses a danger to the region, not just to Lebanon.
We are seeing an increase in activity in the north, and we don't want things to escalate into a broader regional conflict. And that's something that is not new. That's something that we've said from the very beginning, from when Hamas first launched its brutal attack on October 7th. We never want to see an escalation of tensions in the region.
Also, hearing there from two key regional players who aren't directly involved on this border, though, can you talk us through the messaging here that we're getting from Hezbollah?
Well, we entered a new phase in this conflict a few weeks ago. It was Hezbollah really that escalated its attacks against the Israelis. But I have to point out we're still within the unwritten rules of engagement, in the sense that the attacks are limited to the border region and to military targets. Hezbollah has two messages. One, it is trying to put more pressure on the Israelis as there are negotiations to bring about a ceasefire in Gaza. It wants to give its ally Hamas a stronger negotiating position. But Hezbollah is also sending a message of deterrence, because Israel has been threatening a wider conflict if Hezbollah does not pull back from the border. So we hear from the Iraqi foreign minister. A few days ago, we heard from the Iranian foreign minister, of course, an ally of Hezbollah, both of them warning of the possibility of a regional conflict if Israel does widen its conflict in Lebanon. So the message is Hezbollah will not be alone, and that the so-called axis of resistance will get involved in this conflict. Then we hear the U.S. administration, which really has been trying to de-escalate tensions since day one, since October. But what is interesting is that they are talking about the fact that a Gaza ceasefire may just not be enough to silence the guns on the northern front, which means that Israel has been pushing for new security arrangements along the border. Will Hezbollah accept that? Hezbollah has repeatedly said that it will stop firing at Israel once the war on Gaza ends. And it doesn't seem to be interested in changing the reality along that border. And just a few minutes ago, we heard from the Israeli government spokesperson who said that we are going to change the reality either by force or through diplomacy. So the fact that they still talk about diplomacy, a wider war may not be inevitable. But no doubt we are reaching a critical tipping point, if you like, in this 8-month-old conflict.
And we'll continue watching those dynamics very closely indeed. Zeina Khodr there for us in the Lebanese capital with all the latest. Thank you, Zeina.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.